to Eczema Phoenix, where we learn how to transform our lives living with eczema. Today I'm going to start a 3-part series on a really big topic when living with eczema, which is itch management. Ooh! Oh my god, when you have an itch, the paranoia, the panic that comes from past experiences having just like a massacre of itchiness for a long period of time can be really traumatic. And I think if you've had eczema for at least a year, and especially if you've had it for a few decades like I have, I think I'm about to reach my 3rd decade in the next year or two, having eczema, you just can have so many memories of having such intense and really long scratching fests, like just all over your body, that can seemingly start from just one little itch, just like from a hair of an itch that you scratch to relieve it, and that just escalates and escalates until next thing you know you're traveling, like your hands are traveling all over your face and body because of this one thing that triggered another itch that went to another itch, and it just spreads and spreads. So this is a topic very dear to my heart. Eczema in general is a topic very dear to my heart, but itch management, self-mastery, and finding ways to de-escalate the experience of the itch and to de-escalate the aftermath of it it's a really big key to me in learning how to live with eczema in a way where it no longer takes over your life, much less your body or your spirit. So in this 3-part series, I am going to break down to 3 main things that I do when I experience an itch to either have as much harm reduction as possible or to just outright avoid scratching at all. Now, this is a system of techniques that I developed over the years, reading about the mind-body connection, just having my own life experiences, and doing a lot of experimenting with different ways of not using my nails to damage my skin, and to see if there are just other ways of satisfying my itch while still not doing much damage and breaking my skin. This 3-part series starts with de-escalation and harm reduction, which is kind of like my way of having my cake and eat it too. This first part is about physical ways you can use your hands and maybe other tools around you, just found items, to relieve your itch without breaking your skin or with doing as minimal damage as possible. The second part is about vocal release. And when I talk about vocal release, it is about using your voice and really about breath work to help you let go of the panic that can happen when you're feeling itchy with eczema. Oftentimes we just hold our breath, and that experience in my body raises my stress levels and the sympathetic response, the flight or fight response in my body, which then keeps the panic rising and keeps me from letting go of the itch on a physical level. So breath work, vocal release, singing, those kind of things, a really important part of my system of harm reduction, my system of itch management. The third and final part is the mental side of it, the self-talk, the self-coaching that I do and that you can do to get yourself through it, to kind of give yourself directions and guide you out of the possible abyss of scratching yourself into bloody mess. So those are my 3 parts. I'm a thorough person, so that is why I've decided to break these parts into separate videos. And so now let's get into the first part. When I experience an itch on my face or my body, it's just that familiar tickling, almost as if there's just some hair, fur, or a feather grazing some part of your body, and you start to feel what I'm guessing is a histamine response to some kind of allergen. The allergen may be external. It might be a cause of a seasonal change. The environment might be really dry. There might be a lot of dust or dander in the air, pollution. I might have touched something that's dirty and I didn't know it until I touched my face, and then my body started reacting to it. The allergen could also be a food allergy, so something internal, something I consumed. Usually something with dairy will do the trick, and sometimes alcohol too. Not that I drink much of it, but also I'm a lightweight, so it doesn't take much for me to feel an effect from it, and even to a level of just creating itchiness in my body because of the toxicity level. So I experience the itch. It feels really tickly, and in my body, especially in the past when I would experience itchiness, there would just be this kind of accumulative rising of itchiness, this wave. It was kind of like almost a tidal wave, but from the inside out as opposed from side to side, like in an ocean. And so I'm starting to feel this rise of itchiness. And in the past, I would just compulsively scratch. You feel the itch on your face and you're like, or on your arm, you're like, oh my God, it hurt. Oh God, it's so itchy, but it feels so good to scratch, but now I'm bleeding, but it still feels really good to do it, so I'm gonna keep doing it until I don't feel like doing it anymore. And when you have eczema, that feeling of satisfaction and almost pleasure from scratching can be really immense and intense and long. It's not going to be like one or two scratches like someone without eczema has and they'll immediately feel satisfied. It's like, this is the itch that keeps on itching. So with my eczema, when I start to feel a physical itch, there is the temptation to do just the compulsive, claw, dig in with the nails and like rip it to shreds to the point of bleeding and oozing. Over the years, I just got crafty and discovered a few other ways that I could satisfy that itch without necessarily using my nail, though one technique does involve using the nail. So the first technique that you can use to satisfy your eczema rash is actually to pinch it. And I have found that if I have an itch somewhere, and this is not a technique I would necessarily use on my face, because the skin on the face is much thinner than on the body. I think the skin on the body is 7 times thicker, so it could take a little more. So okay, this technique is something I would recommend for the body, on your arms, on your legs, anything below the neck. And I found that maybe if I just tried to pinch it, that would be satisfying, and it can be. And I wouldn't try to please don't try to twist it and bruise it and, go too crazy, but just try to start gently, and if you feel the need to, you can start to press a little more, but not to the point where your nails are starting to leave marks. Try to really just use the padding, and that is the key to making sure there's less damage to the skin. With certain types of rashes, especially if it's food related, the lymph fluid and the blood are trying to carry the toxins out of the body because the liver and the colon for some reason aren't functional or able to process them right there. So when you squeeze your skin where it itches, that's where the blood and the histamine and the toxins in your lymph fluid are rising up and trying to get out of your body, so that the toxins don't accumulate in your body and stay in your blood and poison other organs, other parts of your body that could lead to who knows what. Say, for example, it is a food-related rash that's coming to the surface when you're pinching. Even when you're just pinching, even when you're not breaking the skin, I have found that sometimes mostly the clear lymph fluid, or the oozy, crusty, kind of transparent, yellowish fluid will come out through the pores like really easily. Sometimes it will seem like there's a little bit of a swelling going on and maybe like little bubbles of not necessarily pimples, but like fluid that is accumulating underneath the skin can pop, and it doesn't hurt. It's just a little freaky at first if you're not used to it. When I started to see it, I'm like, whoa, I'm not even scratching my skin, I'm not even breaking the skin, but just pinching this itchy part is releasing all this fluid. This is also something that I'll see fairly commonly if I've had dairy, and it will show up in my hands, usually in the middle, insides, sometimes even slightly on the palmish area, but in my body it's like usually in between my fingers, in the middle of the fingers as well. And so I think that there is a name for that type of eczema. I think it begins with a P, prompolix or something like that. And sometimes I literally like will just get like the back of my nail, not dig in, but I just kind of go down the little bubbles of fluid that come through, and I pinch them to pop them because my instinct is telling me that they are rising to the surface because something needs to get out of my body. Otherwise, why would it do that? Why would it rise to the surface? Why would we sweat? Why would any of this stuff happen if something didn't need to come out of your body? Because our bodies are wise and our bodies are functional, and they do what they need to do to balance out. And if something needs to come out, you need to help your body out and get that thing out. And so yeah, pinching an itchy area, especially if you see some sort of fluid rising to the surface and bubbling up, probably needs to get out. So yeah, I will pinch it, let that fluid drain out. I will wash my hands or the area with a unscented soap. My favorite right now is Dr. Bronner's Castile soap, which is unscented. For some people, it might be quite an oily base because it is primarily made of carrier oils. In that case, Kensington Apothecary makes some nice cream cleansers that have some water in the base, emulsified. That might be a less oilier type of gentle allergenic soap that you can try to sanitize the area after you have released this lymph fluid, and that probably has some histamine in it as well. That will also, not only will that sanitize the area, that will also keep the area from getting too crusty, and sometimes when the crust dries over your skin, it can kind of dry it out a little bit and make it more prone to cracking. So wash your hands after you pinch. I will leave links to the products that I've mentioned in the description box below in case you want to check them out or do some comparison shopping online or at your local store, wherever you get your skincare products. So pinching is one technique, and again, please don't twist the skin. Try not to also lift the skin. You don't actually want to like separate your skin from your muscle, and you don't want to accidentally grab a muscle and like pinch it so hard that you tear it, like stretch it out too much. That can really hurt and cause some damage. Just pinch it and keep the skin where it is. Don't lift, just stay there with it. Keep it at the base. If you feel like moving because of the nervous energy and the pain or the itchy feeling, just, you know, stay near the bone. At least try to keep everything intact. Pinch carefully. So that's one technique. Another technique you can use to have your cake and eat it too is to actually kind of use your nail and kind of use it to pinch the area too. So you're doing this, a similar thing to pinching, where you're putting pressure on the itchy area and you're staying at the base. You're not lifting the muscle, you're not lifting the skin away from the bone. You're keeping everything intact, except you use just the tip of your nail. And ideally, this would be after getting some gel polish done so that that tip is really nice and smooth and won't break the skin. Or after cutting your nails like I have and smoothing them out, filing them out real smooth with a file. Glass file is nice. Those files that you can get at Walgreens that have like the rubbery edge, the rubbery sides that you can just really like smooth and polish out those edges with, because you really gotta get that sharp edge to not be as sharp. So what you do is you press down. You are pinching the area with one finger. You are using the nail, but do not dig in. Just use that, and that, you know, will probably leave a mark, especially when you're trying this at the first time because you're still learning how to manage your itch and response to it. But just doing that might do the same thing as pinching, where you are putting pressure on that itchy area, and if fluid is accumulating there to be released, it will come out around the mark of your nail, and can be another way to release that fluid that's containing the toxins that need to get out of your body. Ideally, you would kind of like angle it this way and just kind of like do that. Be as gentle as you can, but also kind of, you know how how some itches can be really pleasurable? like really, like, just sit with it. Like don't even worry about it or what's gonna happen or the aftermath. Like, and don't even ignore it. Like, honestly, kind of just be with the itch. Kind of feel it and feel how satisfying it is to meet it where it is, to relieve it. Because when you're putting this pressure and when you're relieving this fluid, a lot of that alone will relieve the itch, because the itch is happening because your skin needs to let something out. It needs to be relieved. It needs to remove something. And if you're just like doing that and staying with it, that is serving that purpose without having a huge massacre that is driven by panic and stress and cortisol without much thought. You really, you know, when you're doing this, you know what you're doing. You are relieving itch, you are releasing toxins, you are satisfying the itch, and you are doing it with the purpose of not bleeding and avoiding breaking the skin as much as possible. I'll also say that when this fluid comes out, it's coming out through the pores. So yeah, there is some permeability, but it's not the same as like tearing into the skin. Like, for the most part, your skin will stay intact and be okay doing this. The third and final method that I have for relieving itching from eczema is actually to scratch backwards. And you're probably like, what do you mean by scratch backwards? Like, how do you do that? And this is something that I am just like, I'm so happy I discovered this. I definitely didn't learn this from anywhere. This is something that I just experimented with until I figured out. I just, you know, you don't know until you try. And maybe after watching this, you will discover another really great way to relieve your itch without damaging your skin as much that that would never cross my mind. So the way I scratch backwards is like, you know, it's gonna be the opposite of a traditional scratch. When you just scratch and go for it without thinking, you're pulling a Wolverine. You go and bear down on the skin, you tear in, and then you scrape back. And that is a traditional scratch. That's what happens when you're itching, and when you have eczema, it's like exponential. When you scratch backwards like I do, I use the back of the nail. If it's not doing you any favors going forward, maybe you gotta try doing it backwards. Maybe if one way doesn't work, try the other way. And this way really works. Because what you'll do is you'll feel an itch somewhere, and instead of bearing down with the tip and the underside of your nail and scraping back, you will flip it over, make the top of your nail, which is nice and smooth and not sharp, and you will kind of bear down, but it's a light grazing. And you would do this, and this will be the scratching. Like, I'm feeling a little here, and that was enough for me. I'm like seriously satisfied right now. I have no desire to scratch. I satisfied the itch, but I didn't break the skin, which is avoiding infection and avoiding panic that could potentially escalate to just more of that scratching. And it becomes a very addictive, albeit a very satisfying and pleasurable experience to just keep going. We are avoiding addiction, we are avoiding escalation, we are reducing harm, and so experiment with other ways of relieving your itch. Try the backwards method. Try just using the top of your nail and then just very lightly graze it with the very tip, just for a little bit of that scratch sensation without digging in. And I swear, over time, you will start to feel more relief because you are doing things differently in a way that your body is registering you satisfying your itchiness, and you are still giving your skin a chance to recover so that it can continue to be your largest organ, protecting your internal organs, get to a much healthier, stronger, resilient place that isn't constantly covered in huge rashes that are unmanageable. So I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that you will try some or all these techniques, or discover new techniques and find something that works for you. If you have another creative way of satisfying your itch that helps you lower your skin damage, I would love to learn about it. And please comment below so that I can learn something new from you. Otherwise, I hope you found that helpful. Stay tuned for my next video next week, which will be part 2 in this series. And that will be focusing on vocal release and using breath work to help you release your itch as you are doing these harm reduction techniques to scratching. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!